Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming to SFU's 3MT final. I'm Jeff Dirksen. I'm the Dean of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies, and I'm also a member of the Department of English here at SFU. I'd like to acknowledge that we're gathered here today and doing research continually on the Tsleil-Waututh territory, and that SFU's campuses are on unceded Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, and Musqueam lands. So, as you know, today, the 3-minute thesis is a research competition, communication competition that judges students' abilities to effectively explain their research in language appropriate to a broader audience. So the 3MT was developed at the University of Queensland in Australia in 2008, and it's since grown to be a global or international competition. The drive behind 3MT is tied to strategies to make the knowledge that we produce at universities, and knowledges across disciplines as well as knowledges in between disciplines and knowledges in excess of disciplines. The goal is to make these more public, more accessible. This means not conceiving as knowledge as something that's merely specialized or accessible only to those who know a particular discourse, but to cast knowledge as something within the grasp of everyone, and as something that is useful for everyone, and as something that travels across experiences. So this little form of knowledge mobilization that we're going to see today has a great humanist tradition of the democracy of knowledge behind it. In 2013, we saw an explosion of the 3MT's competitions across Canadian campuses. And today there are 33 universities across Canada that host these very same competitions. This year the Western final is at the University of Regina on April 27th, and that's where our winner will go today to represent SFU. So just before we start here, let me introduce our illustrious judges who've graciously accepted the tough job of evaluating a winner from the 10 students who present their research from across all faculties here at SFU. They'll be doing their judging. There's also opportunity for everyone in the audience to vote for a People's Choice as well. So first, I'd like to introduce Dr. Nicole Shearer, who's a postdoc fellow here in the Department of Psychology and a member of our postdoctoral association. She came to SFU in 2017, and she received her PhD in psychology from Wilfrid Laurier University. Her research is in developmental. She's working in a developmental lab, and her work is on speech motor control in children with autism. Secondly, I'd like to introduce Dougan O'Neill, who's our Associate Vice President Research, and he works here to raise the profile of researchers and also to make SFU a strong platform for research for everyone. His own research out of the Department of Physics relates to high-energy physics and to proton anti-proton collisions, amongst other small, fundamental, and fast things. His PhD is from the University of Victoria, and his MA is from the University of Alberta. And lastly, I'd like to introduce Dr. Peter Keller, who's our Vice President Academic and Provost. Peter came to the helm here at SFU on September 1st, 2016, after being the Dean of Social Sciences at the University of Victoria. Peter's a geographer and specializes in cartography and geographic information sciences. At UVic, he was central to defining their approach to community-engaged research and helped develop this out into diverse communities. His MA and PhD are from the University of Western Ontario. I just have to get the sheet with the rules. I'm going to introduce the rules and the criteria. I'll stride confidently across the stage over to my little booth here. So the rules is that, and I'm giving you a slightly abridged version of them to save some time. The rules are that the contestants can have a single static PowerPoint slide when they're doing their 3-minute presentation. No other electronic media is available to them, and there's also no props for use here. Their 3-minute the time limit is very strict, and we were discussing this in the judges' room a little while ago. There's no poems, raps, or songs, which I'm disappointed in because I'd actually prepared a poem on proton and anti-proton collisions that I've been working on for quite a while now. Presentations are considered to have started when the presenter starts through movement or speech, and the decision of the adjudicating panel is final. So the criteria for these are that the background of research in question is addressed and clearly described. There's clearly described the key results of the research, and the presentation should follow a clear and logical sequence. The goal is to avoid scientific jargon or even jargon that comes from other disciplines as well, and and also not to explain terminology, but to provide sufficient background information to give us a sense of what they're up to. And also, we're here to also adjudicate if adequate time is spent on each aspect of a presenter's element within their research. So I'm going to introduce Stevie Benish, who's the coordinator in professional development and student experience in graduate and postdoctoral studies. Along with that, she's also a master's education student in the Art for Social Change program. So Stevie's going to introduce our contestants, and we'll run through relatively quickly. And then once we've had the presenters, and there'll be one question or two questions available to the audience after each presentation. After everyone's presented, we'll take a break. The judges will tally their results, and then we'll come back and announce the winner. So I'll just turn it over to Stevie. And Stevie, thanks for all the work that you've done in organizing these heats and today.
No problem. Thank you. So thank you all for coming to support your fellow students, or if you're a supervisor or a staff, or you're just curious about research. But this is really about them, so I just want to get started and let them take the stage here. So Ankit is first, and he's a PhD student from CIAT, and he's going to be talking about wearable technologies for healthcare.